To discuss now, joining me is National Security Institute founder and executive director Jamil Jaffer. Jamil, good to see you. I wonder, do you see this as President Trump kicking the can down the road, or is it a solid step towards actually ending this war?
Well, look, we're not really sure, Lizzy, because what we've done is we've seen this 10-point peace plan from the Iranians. We've seen allegations about what's in it. Obviously, as your earlier correspondence indicated, there are a lot of pieces that the U.S. just can't go along with. And so we'll see if this is really a basis for negotiations, as the president said. And if it is, and there's a path forward here, that's great. But it's hard to see the Iranians agreeing to the kind of things that President Trump has talked about, ending their role in terrorism in the region, ending their nuclear program, particularly when they're saying the U.S. has accepted enrichment by Iran of nuclear capabilities, uranium that is, and that we've accepted their control of the Straits of Hormuz, which the United States has never agreed to, given that it's an international waterway.
What do you think it was that brought Iran to the negotiating table? Was it President Trump's threats to, that a whole civilization would die tonight? When, Iran had shown willingness to act against its own people if it meant that the regime would stay in power. Is it surprising to you then that it agreed to this ceasefire?
No, look, I think that Iran right now realizes that it has something of an advantage in the sense that even though its navy has been decimated, its air defense capabilities have been significantly reduced, and its military has been cut down, not to mention the loss of its supreme leader. At the same time, I think they recognize that with the world price of oil skyrocketing, the president's demands the Strait of Hormuz be reopened, they had an opportunity here to give the president something he wanted, the Straits of Hormuz reopened, and try to get a deal on the table, or at least a negotiation that might work in their favor. And if there's any truth to that, some parts of that 10-point peace plan are really the basis for negotiations, well, then Iran may have gotten a significant gain. That would be a mistake for the United States, and hopefully the president is unwilling to give Iran what's demanding: domestic enrichment, this access to control of the Straits of Hormuz, complete cessation of hostilities with respect to its terrorist proxies who have been engaged in a war against the United States and our allies for decades now. So if those are on the table, and that's what really is up for negotiation, that could be a real problem for the United States and our allies, not just in the region, but around the globe.
Well, yeah, is it not a huge concession to Iran that, yes, Tehran is allowing free passage through the Strait of Hormuz for 2 weeks, but it's in coordination with Iran's armed forces?
No, that's exactly right. If that's the trade, one, you have to coordinate with the Iranian Navy, that you have to pay them potentially a multi-million-dollar toll. That's hugely problematic and not something that the United States or any of our allies in the region, frankly, should accept. That's an international waterway. It's been deemed as such for decades because it's a choke point between two major waterways. So no nation is control of its international waters. And the idea that Iran would assert control over it simply because it is true today that Iran, because of its military sort of efforts in the region, is controlling that strait. But in the past, U.S. presidents have actually said we're going to enforce the rule of law. We're going to allow ships through there, and we're going to escort them if need be. If you remember the tanker wars in the 1980s, that was what that was all about, and that's been a longstanding U.S. and frankly international position. Not one country in the world recognizes Iran's control of the Straits of Hormuz because it's an international waterway and a choke point.
So how much face has Trump really saved here? How much closer are the US and Iran in terms of their respective demands than when the war began?
Well, they're pretty far apart. The U.S. put out a 15-point proposal for peace, which has a lot of things that we've talked about: ending the nuclear program, giving up domestic enrichment, reducing their ballistic missile capabilities, stopping supporting terror around the region and around the globe with Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and the like. The Iranians responded with a 5-point peace plan that had, a 5-point plan initially, now a 10-point plan, but a 5-point plan that had none of that, just had the U.S. ceasing hostilities. And now their 10-point plan is sort of, it offers something for the Iranians. The only thing it really offers on the table is the opening of the Straits of Hormuz. It doesn't really offer a whole lot else. That's a huge problem. And so we remain pretty far apart, even though the president has indicated, one, this is the basis for negotiations, and two, that we're not that far apart. So that's what he's saying publicly. Maybe there are negotiations going on behind the scenes with Vice President J.D. Vance, Witkoff and the other folks involved, Jared Kushner. If, in fact, we are closer to a deal, that would be great to see what that looks like. But as of right now, the parties will look pretty far apart based on what they're saying publicly, at least.
Yeah, how likely is it that this ceasefire will turn into a permanent end to the war? Do you see it as a rolling 2 weeks, given that the two sides are so far apart?
I do think there's a desire on both sides to bring this conflict to a conclusion. I think President Trump obviously is tired of the war. He's not satisfied with where gas prices are at. He's obviously deeply concerned about that as a domestic political matter, and frankly, as an international matter. He hasn't got the support he wanted from the allies to reopen the straits, so he's in a tough situation. At the same time, the Iranians have had their military hit very hard. They've been embarrassed publicly. Their air capacity has been decimated. Their ballistic missile launch capability and their drone launch capability is essentially wiped out or significantly harmed. They still have a lot of missiles. They still have a lot of drones, but their ability to launch them is harmed. And so they need some time to rebuild that capacity. So what has to happen here, if the U.S. is to continue to prosecute this war successfully, is to get a real resolution that gets the Iranians to come down and come off where they are today. That's going to be hard to do without new pressure on them. So we'll see how this plays out. But right now, it's going to be a tough negotiation on both sides. Could lead to a restart in hostilities. That would not be good for anybody involved. And yet, the Iranians don't seem to think today they really need to negotiate other than opening up the Straits of Hormuz.
So, Jamil, it's already fragile. How much more precarious does it make this ceasefire that Israel is saying the deal doesn't extend to Lebanon? Do you believe that Israel is fully on board here?
Well, the president said that Israel is on board. Israel's saying they're not completely on board. It's hard to imagine them getting on board with any of the things in the 10-point plan that Iran has laid out. And look, Israel has always taken the position that Lebanon's a separate matter, that they've been going after Lebanon for years and years, regardless of what's happening in Iran. They obviously, Lebanon controlled in part by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah. That's obviously a problem for Israel and will continue to be a problem as long as that remains the case. There's no sign that that's coming to an end. And so I would be surprised if Israel believes that Lebanon's part of the game. And if they are part of this ceasefire negotiation, then I think Israel is going to extract from the negotiations. They're going to want to be at the table. They're going to be part of those negotiations. And they're going to extract real concessions about Hezbollah that can be enforced. It's hard to see Iran giving up that critical proxy in the region.
Jamil, we appreciate you staying up late for us. That's National Security Institute founder and executive director Jamil Jaffer. Thank you very much.